I think one of the worst things about growing up fat is realizing people feel incredibly comfortable humiliating you. Like they genuinely believe your body is available for commentary, for jokes, for comparisons, for entertainment. And the weird part is, most of them don't even think they're being cruel. They think they're just joking. But I don't think people understand what happens to a child when they become the funny thing in the room too often. Because after a while, you stop entering spaces to enjoy them. You enter spaces trying to predict humiliation before it happens. You get what I'm saying? For instance, have you ever walked into a room already preparing yourself emotionally, just in case somebody says something about the way you look? I used to do that in school constantly, especially around boys. And the strange part is, I thought they were the safer option. Hi friends, welcome to the Fat Girl Diary. So I spent most of school feeling slightly misplaced, like everybody else had received instructions on how to be a girl properly, and I hadn't. The other girls looked effortless. They knew how to stand, how to pose in photographs, how to casually talk about crushes and clothes and diets. And I always felt late to all of it. Too big, too awkward, too aware of myself. Nobody directly tells you you're different every day. Sometimes it's smaller than that. You just notice people looking longer at you than they look at others. So eventually, I drifted. Not because anyone officially pushed me out. None of the girls did that. It just became very exhausting for me trying to keep up in spaces where I already felt undesirable. And honestly, girls can sense insecurity immediately. Even when they don't mean harm. You feel exposed around confidence when you don't have any yourself. So slowly I stopped trying to be included there. And instead I started spending more time around the boys. The boys were loud, chaotic, competitive, always arguing about something. And during those years, that something was wrestling. WWE, or as it was called WWF back then, was everywhere. Every lunch break, every free period. You remember those trump cards? They were always spread across desks like currency. Arguments about finishing moves, entrances, championship belts. And for once, I knew exactly what everyone was talking about. I loved wrestling too, not ironically, not casually. I genuinely loved it. The drama, the entrances, the ridiculous confidence of it all. The Rock felt untouchable. Stone Cold Steve Austin felt rebellious. The Undertaker felt supernatural. And Triple H felt dangerous. And somewhere inside all that chaos, I felt normal. Because finally, I wasn't struggling to understand the conversation. I belonged inside it. Or at least I wanted to. Sometimes lonely people mistake access for acceptance. So I started talking more, very carefully, not too much, just enough. I would mention a match here or there, correct a detail, talk about an entrance theme, and the boys also reacted normally, which felt huge to me. Do you know how little it takes for an excluded child to feel hopeful? Sometimes all it takes is being allowed to stand nearby without being mocked. And then, one afternoon, everything changed in less than 5 seconds. The classroom was noisy, someone was throwing paper, a group of boys were arguing over the usual trump cards. I was just standing there with them, listening, smiling, trying not to look too eager to belong. And then this boy named Sam looked at me and shouted, "Hey you, Yokozuna!" And immediately the laughter started. Short, sharp, instant. The kind of laughter that arrives too quickly. because everyone understands the joke immediately. And I understood it too. That's what hurt. I knew who Yokozuna was. I knew exactly what he meant the second he said it. The size, the body, the comparison. And suddenly I could feel myself differently. That's the strange thing about shame. Sometimes it arrives all at once. Like somebody switches on a harsh light and you realize everyone has been seeing something you were trying not to notice. I remember laughing a little, not because it was funny, because panic sometimes sounds like laughter. Children learn very early that surviving humiliation is often a performance. I didn't walk away. That's the part I think about the most now. I stayed there. I continued listening, continued pretending, continued acting normal. Because leaving would have confirmed the hurt. And somehow that felt even more embarrassing. So instead, I swallowed it. Like I swallowed every other comment about my body growing up quietly. People think these moments are harmless because they are common. That's the problem. Everybody treats body shaming like casual humor, especially when the person is fat. People say things they would never say about someone's scars or grief or insecurity. But weight? People speak about weight like it's public discussion, like larger bodies automatically become group conversation. Nobody asks for permission before commenting either. And when you're young, you begin believing discomfort is simply the price of existing visibly. I wish I could go back and ask that younger version of myself something. Why were you apologizing for existing before you even became an adult? Why did you believe your body needed permission to be accepted? I wish I could go back and ask that boy named Sam, did you ever wonder what happened to the girl after everyone laughed? Did you know she would replay that moment for years? Or was it just another lunch break for you? And weirdly enough, life answered that question for me years later. Almost 10 years after school, I ran into him again. By then, life had changed. I had changed. I had lost weight, not magically, not dramatically overnight, just slowly, painfully, over years of learning myself differently. And to be honest, I think I was the best version of myself I had ever been. Not because I was thinner, but because for the first time I wasn't shrinking my personality to make other people comfortable. And suddenly Sam recognized me, actually recognized me. The same boy who once made my body the punchline of a classroom joke could suddenly not stop staring at me. At first I thought maybe he felt awkward, maybe guilty. But no, he started flirting, persistently, shamelessly. And then he actually said something I will never forget. He laughed and went, honestly, if I knew you were going to grow up looking like this, I would have asked you out back then. And I remember just staring at him. Because imagine carrying a wound for years, only for the person who caused it to remember the story completely differently. To him, it was harmless nostalgia, a joke from school. To me, it became a part of my self-worth. And for the first time in my life, I didn't laugh along to make someone comfortable. I looked at him and said, "You called me Yokozuna in front of an entire classroom." And instantly his face changed. Not dramatically, just enough to realize, oh, she remembers. I told him something I wish somebody had told me when I was younger. You don't get to humiliate someone during the years they're learning how to love themselves, and then return later asking for access to the healed version of them. Because that comment stayed with me for years, longer than he probably even remembered saying it. And I think that's the frightening thing about humiliation. The person delivering it often moves on immediately. The person receiving it sometimes carries it into adulthood. No child should grow up feeling like their body is a public joke waiting to happen. But sadly, some of us did. And the worst part, people called it normal school life. The fact is, some children grow up building confidence, others grow up building camouflage. People think childhood bullying ends in childhood, like you just grow out of it. But sadly, you don't. Those moments actually follow you into adulthood, into friendships, into relationships, into love. Because when you spend years believing your body is the first thing people notice, you carry that fear everywhere. And that's why I needed to share a couple of school stories first. Because adult insecurities usually begin somewhere much smaller. A classroom, a joke, a laugh you never forgot. Next time, I want to move beyond school memories for a bit. Because the truth is, these moments don't stay inside classrooms. They grow up with you. All of it follows you into adult life, especially dating. Because dating becomes very complicated when you've spent years believing your body is the first thing people judge about you. How do you believe someone finds you attractive when embarrassment shaped your self-image first? How do you allow yourself to be loved when you learned to criticize yourself before anyone else could? I will talk about dating while hating your body, about insecurity on first dates, about overthinking touch, about feeling terrified of being seen. Because sometimes the hardest part of dating isn't rejection. It's believing you deserve love at all. I'll meet you here again next Sunday with this entry from the Fat Girl Diary.